Why is storytelling so fundamental?
Your brand needs to connect with people. How do we connect with people? Through stories. I was able to work with Anthony Bourdain, CNN, Disney Parks, Meta, NFL, Nickelodeon,
What makes a good story?
A good story gives you a feeling.
What are the components to tell a story that evokes emotion but keeps the interest?
What we're doing in storytelling is we're setting up patterns, and when I'm ready for someone to pay attention, I break that pattern. We could be having a really big music track. It's building up, it's getting faster, shots are cutting super quick. Boom. Now I'm like, oh, there's something different. And you got to know that that break is something someone's going to pay attention to and use it to your advantage.
The intro to this video has actually been edited by you. Sorry for the plug there. I just thought it'd be worthwhile to connect everything.
No apologies here. I appreciate it.
We are actually talking about storytelling, and I have to say your story is pretty interesting because you've dealt with quite a lot of big brands. So do you want to just go into your background?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to work with some big brands. And the story, how I ended up in such a spot is so funny because it started off with Craigslist. I was visiting my sister in Los Angeles, and I got a call to in the airport as I was flying home, and I had applied to a Craigslist ad. And the guy asked me, "Hey, can you show up to help me with this project?" I said yes, and then I got on the plane and flew home, which was silly. So I landed immediately, bought a one-way ticket back, met this guy, went into his guest bedroom a day later, and I thought, how strange, I'm in a guest bedroom in Los Angeles. Here we go, making a video. And the client that day was Disney Parks. And that relationship took off, and the guy who gave me this job through Craigslist, his career took off, and I got to go with him. And through that time in Los Angeles, I was able to work with Anthony Bourdain, CNN, Disney Parks, the Disney and Alani, Meta, Facebook, NFL, Nickelodeon. I mean, all sorts of amazing people, amazing brands. And I got to, sit there in some amazing meetings with executives. And it was all from video editing, which was never really the direction I thought video editing would take me. But it was an amazing journey that's still going on today.
What kind of videos were you editing for them? Were they just advertisements? Kind of go into that.
We always were working in what we would call, like, the space I feel really comfortable in is called branded content. Now today, Instagram's taken that term and kind of changed the name, but essentially it is helping brands create videos that tell stories. Most of the time that's not your typical 30-second ad, but it's a 2 to 6 minute video where you really get into the storytelling. You really get into interviews and what you're doing, how you're doing it. You're not trying to sell as much as you're trying to tell. And we did all sorts of fun things. We worked on ads that were for 90-second cinema videos. But at the end of the day, we were always ingrained with these brands to help elevate their brand and tell their brand's story more than we were trying to sell a product or a service.
Why is storytelling so fundamental for videos, for selling or a brand itself? Why is storytelling important?
For the brand, like today's storytelling is a buzzword, and it should be a buzzword because it is that important. Everyone should know it. Everyone's meanings are different. But what I believe from my world, which is videos and brands, is that your brand needs to connect with people. And today, how do we connect with people? Through stories. And those stories, way back in the day, they were over the campfire. Today, they're over screens. So the screen is our modern day campfire, and we've got to tell our stories to those that are surrounding us. And when you're a brand, the screen is the way we do that, and the video is the strongest way to tell a story. People can watch these stories, right? It's not once upon a time stories. What you're trying to do is tell people who you are as a brand, and people can identify with that, and suddenly you've got a loyal follower.
Is storytelling any different when you're considering a personal brand versus a corporate brand?
At the end of the day, no. Because what you do is you look at the brand and you ignore everything else. Like when I was working with Disney Cruise Line, you might think that's a big corporate brand, but what they were trying to do at that time was eliminate Mickey. So people, families that were wanting to go see beautiful locations wouldn't cross Disney off the list because Mickey's going to be there. When you go try to look at the Eiffel Tower, he's going to be over your shoulder. That's not the impression they wanted to give. And so we were taking all their existing video footage. They did go film more, but did they have to? No. We just had to tell the stories of what those trips are like, showing what they were like. Disney never told anybody, don't worry, Mickey won't be there. But what did they show? They showed much more authentic, less beautiful shots, more like run and gun style filming. And that's what we selected to help showcase what a big corporate brand was. But it's who the brand is and what they're trying to accomplish. And the size doesn't matter so much. Now, what does change in the storytelling is you've got to get it past 15 chefs in the kitchen, right? Versus one guy. So that's really the only part that changes is like, how many levels do I have to beat to get this video to the end game?
Let's just go on a top level. What makes a good story?
That's a big one. So again, I'm going to bring all these questions into my wheelhouse. Like, what makes a good story when you're in the world of marketing, you're in the world of brands, and ultimately it's something for someone to hook onto. And when I say hook, I don't mean a strong 3-second opening. I mean like a good story is going to evoke a feeling, and it's going to be a feeling that someone watching that video associates with. It can be a feeling of, a running company could show someone who is struggling and gets over a hump. It can be something so simple, but a good story gives you a feeling. And there's 1,000 ways to give a feeling.
Can you get that same emotion in a TikTok or long form video like a YouTube video?
You can get maybe not the same emotion, right? Like I do think on TikTok, you can accomplish the same idea that you can accomplish on a long YouTube video. The big difference is when you're on TikTok and you are telling your 15-second, your 60-second story, it's going to be a weaker connection you're going to build because the next one's so available. The next thing is so available. So it's going to be really hard to push through all that noise and get up into the front. Is it possible? Yeah. But you can do it at every level. Now, when you get to YouTube and you've got someone like yourself, Greg, watching a 9-minute video about my brand, at the end of those 9 minutes, you are in such a stronger position than you are at the end of the 60 seconds on TikTok to take whatever that next step is.
The one thing I'd like to know here is that, storytelling is great as long as you have their attention. So how do you keep their attention with a story that's 9 minutes or even 2 hours? What are the components to editing or to tell a story that evokes emotion but keeps the interest?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so many of these questions, it's like, this is the answer, right? My opinion right now is what we're doing in storytelling is we're setting up patterns. And when I'm ready for someone to pay attention as a video editor, I break that pattern. Start something, end something, get monotonous, break it. When there's a change, you're going to key back into it. So that doesn't mean that you got rapid flashing changes, all this, all that. Like in the universe, in the ballpark of what you're telling, what you're showing as a video, there are patterns and there's times to break it. And you need to just be really intentional with what you're doing. Of course, the big thing everyone says today is the hook is important. And it's true. The hook is everything. But the trick is once you get someone past that, now you're on level 2. It's like a video game. How do you get past level 2? Maybe that's the 10 seconds. Maybe that's the 2 minutes if you've already got someone longer. But at the end of the day, how do you keep someone there? It's quality. You got to be doing quality storytelling, quality video editing. Somewhere in the middle, there's an extreme level of quality, whether that's in the storytelling or the production, and it's going to keep someone there.
If someone wants to get to your position, what resources would they need to go and read or watch?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts and hold me accountable. The first part is, how did I learn? The second part is, what could you do today? I was blessed with one of the greatest mentors in this world, I believe. He was a master storyteller, and everything we did, we would work as a group of four of us, editing 3 to 4 separate videos a day. Every day we would stop with about 30 minutes left at the end of the day, watch everybody's videos and just beat them up. What could you do here? What could you do? Why are you doing that? He used to walk over me at the middle of a day unannounced and say, why'd you do that? Point to this random piece of my timeline. And if I couldn't speak to it, I was in trouble. And so it reaches a point to where every decision you make, there's a reason, there's strong intention, and every decision you make needs to ladder up to some simpler ideas. Don't get too complicated, but everything you do needs to serve 1 to 2 masters at most. Because we've got to stay simple. You can't tell complex stories unless you've got 90 minutes. And in my world, I don't have 90 minutes, nor do I want it. So I got here through repetition, consistency, doing a lot of things wrong, making a lot of mistakes, and using the same footage for years. I had the same batch of B-roll at Disney that would, there's always new B-roll coming in, but at the end of the day, I had the same footage to tell loads of different stories and different needs. And so you realize you've got this toolbox, which is video footage, voiceover, graphics, whatever you have, and you've just got to use those tools to build what you need. And then 2, if I may, we were talking about what could you do today? Like, it's repetition, it's consistency, but at the end of the day, you've got to, if you're a video editor right now and you want to get better at storytelling, I would say the more challenged you are, the harder and less tools you have to do it, the better storyteller you're going to become. If you've got 6 clips to tell a story versus 500, sure, you can tell a better story with 500, but a better storyteller is going to tell that story with 6.
That's interesting. I mean, would that not make TikTok almost a great medium to try to get the fundamentals right before going to a big long form?
I think that's a beautiful way to scale up. Is like, does it resonate on TikTok? Awesome. Does it resonate on Instagram? And then maybe you walk up the ladder. I don't have the hierarchy of what's best, but it starts with TikTok and it ends with YouTube. That would be an incredible fun exercise that I might even have to try myself, is start telling one type of story on TikTok, and when you beat that level, climb up to the next one, and so you're at 12 minutes on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to segue here, you've actually got a company called Cut the Pod. And so you focus now on editing podcasts. So for people that are watching, the intro to this video has actually been edited by you. So if anyone's interested and enjoyed the intro, check out the website. It'll be linked in the description. Sorry for the plug there. I just thought it'd be worthwhile to connect everything.
No apologies here. I appreciate it.
I mean, what are your tips for great intros, whether that be a podcast or any other longer form video?
I think my biggest tip is know your audience. Who are you making it for? If you're making it for a client and that client is a skincare brand that's targeting females that are the age of, 16 to 30, that intro is going to be really different than if you are trying to tell a short form story for your own entertainment that you're trying to build on your vlog or your YouTube channel as a creator. Like, you've really got to know who you're speaking to, what they like, what their problems might be, and what are the solutions to their problems. at the end of the day, it's all so simple. It's just easy to open up Pandora's box and get lost in it.
At a surface level, that all sounds extremely simple, but is there a chicken and the egg thing? Like, do you need to know that stuff before you create the videos, or while you're creating the videos, you use analytics to figure out that and develop better videos over time?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways, right? Like I think that's the blessing and the curse of where we are in the wild west of video today is there's 1,000 right answers and there's 1,000 wrong answers. And what's wrong in one area can be right in another, and there's nothing wrong with that. So there's some trial and error that could get you there. There's also some research that could get you there. How much time do you have? How much money do you have? And what's the best way to solve that problem to get to the source? And truthfully, even when you find the answer, it can get away from you so quickly because algorithms are changing. People are changing. I worked with a skincare brand for 3 years, making 1 to 2 ads a week. We'd look at the data at the end of every week, and we would then take whatever video we made the week before, iterate on that to make that video better. Hey, people got to like 6 seconds here. That's what's happening here. Let's try a different way to get them to those 6 seconds, see how that works. We built a catalog of some frameworks of videos that were incredible. And then Apple introduced that change to advertising, and those 3 years were out the door overnight. So, it's a slippery slope. You could fall at any moment, but I think at the end of the day, you have to be creative in your storytelling and creative in your strategy before you even start to tell a story.
Do the fundamentals ever change? Because like you said, Apple could change something or the algorithm could change, but at the heart of whatever you're trying to create, you're trying to tell a story. So regardless of medium or platform, are the fundamentals always there? Is that timeless?
I believe so, 100%. The fundamentals of storytelling are timeless, and goes back to feeling. And I use that exact same approach, whether I'm telling a story of a girl at Disneyland seeing Mickey Mouse for her first time, or if we're doing a podcast talking about philosophy. Like that might sound really extreme, but at the end of the day, like I'm trying to have good pacing in my shot choice. Even if you have two shots versus 90, like I'm using the same exact toolkit in order to make that video as interesting as I can.
Who do you draw inspiration from? Because you clearly have a lot of years behind you, but there must have been something that you've said, I like that look. I like that story.
Well, I do. I come from the world of BMX, which is skateboarding on a bike. It's a way I would hate to describe it, but it's doing tricks on a bike. And watching those videos back in those days is what jumped me into wanting to film and edit. And then today, there's so much. Like anytime I start a new video, I'm looking for the most similar style video, and I'm pulling inspiration that's in the same lane as what I'm creating. And then I'm going back to just I always have a running playlist that I save of videos that just give me a feeling. Today I've loved basketball for a long time. So I could be making a video that's a podcast intro, and I'm going to pull up a video of Dirk Nowitzki having a highlight reel from 8 years ago that just gives me a certain feeling. I'm going to watch that video and I'm going to think about what I'm creating for a podcast trailer or an intro. And I'm going to be like, how does this video get me to that feeling? And then I'm going to just take that exact same approach to my project. Does that make sense? It's a terrible analogy, but it's like taking the engine out of one car and putting it into another. That might not work well at all in that sad analogy, but it's applying techniques into different worlds.
So since you edit a lot of podcasts, give some tips. For people that are interested in doing some podcasting or trying to find a catchy intro that evokes emotion or gets people hooked. So give some tangible things that you do to make it work.
Absolutely. It's a fun one. So with podcasts, it's a different technique, right? One of the things I think is the most important is that your podcast feels like an extension of your brand. What does that mean? Like your podcast, when I watch a podcast, if it's for a brand, if it's for a business, at any one point in the podcast, if I watch it for 3 seconds, I need to know that. Um, that could be through your captions. Are your captions in your brand's primary color, your brand's primary font? Or are they in the Alex Hormozy yellow font with black stroke that doesn't tell me anything about who you are? And then beyond that, there's a storytelling in podcast that goes beyond the actual video. What do I mean by that is you can start a story. This is an abstract idea of a story, right? Where, Greg, you watch a 15-second clip that I've uploaded of a podcast and it interests you. At the end of that, we stay on brand. There's a call to action. That call to action could just tell you, hey, go to the Instagram for more, go to Twitter for more, go to YouTube for more. If I got you interested enough to reach the end of that clip, maybe you can go now to my YouTube and you don't have 30 minutes, you don't have 60 minutes to watch the full episode, but now there's a 5-minute clip that I've offered up as a brand to you. And you can take that next step to watch 5 minutes. And you know what? You might just say, dang it, like this is really interesting. I'm going to watch the whole thing. And then if you really need to add some spice to that entire story arc of the viewer, a really strong teaser that's fast, it's action packed. That is yet again on brand. That's what I always go back to on a podcast. And what will that teaser do? It's going to, it might leave a couple cliffhangers and it could find you at any one point in that journey, but it's going to have energy. And that might push you over the hump to watch that next video. So to sum that all up in podcasting, yes, there's a way to tell stories. My favorite way to do that is to be on brand at every one point. Avoid the trends. You can embrace a trend, but keep it on brand. And know where your viewer may be in a journey based on what video they're watching and offer up an easy next step for them if they make it to the end of that video.
Do you think a lot of people do a bad job at that, or what do you see?
I don't want to say a bad job, but I see so many podcasts create great clips and then the video ends. And you got me for 60 to 90 seconds and then you just left me off. You kicked me out of the car and now I got to walk home. If you left a nice end graphic on there that said, if you watch this, go to our Twitter for more, go to YouTube, go to our website. If you were talking about a product in that video and then you sneakily, leave me a nice link at the end where I might find that product, you're going to guide me there. And I think a lot of podcasts are victims of templates that they just put on everything and they just hope that views bring people to the podcast, to their full episode. But there's so much going on in a podcast. And if you can find ways to organically tie in and dovetail into where someone might be based on what this video is talking about and offer up a nice solution for them at the end of that video, you're going to do a good job. And I think, again, today, a lot of podcasts are victims of plug and chug and dismissing the art form that's there just because it's long form. They take a foot off the gas. And as more people do it, more hop on that train. And there's a bit of a lost art in both graphics, advertising, and storytelling.
The one thing that YouTube allows people to do, which I don't know if any other platform does, where at the end of a video, you have the thumbnails for other related videos. And I think a lot of YouTubers do a great job at saying, hey, there's this other component to this story that hasn't been told yet. Click on this video. And it's like this continuation of that longer form story. I think that it's hard for podcasts, long form, like 3-hour long podcasts, to have that continuation. So that's a challenge on that longer form, 1 hour, 2 hour, content. But the other thing I wanted to ask here is that When you're talking about emotions for podcasts, it seems like negative emotions, whether that be on the thumbnail or the title, negative or scary things gets more attention than something that's happy. So do you tend to go down the, almost emotional manipulation to get people to click?
Personally, I don't. I don't. But you open up the newspaper and it's pretty clear that negativity is the way to get past page one. Um, that's what they do. But no, my whole approach is when I'm watching the podcast for my first time for a client, every time I see something that, like I said, gives me a feeling. It could be good, bad, but it makes me leave that monotonous conversation and say, "Ooh, that was something." I bring all those up the first time I watch a podcast. And from that batch that I create there, those are my hooks, those are my short forms, those are my teasing elements. And so I have no bias towards what those are. Often it's before you even hit record. I'll find a lot of great moments on a podcast before someone hits record. People smiling, people laughing is people like to see that. And it adds a human element. Authenticity is so big today. And so you can find it anywhere. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for moments that give me a feeling that stick out.
That's great. Yeah, that's tough because there's that balance between wanting to be polished and then authentic. And it's hard for someone that may want to swear a lot or, whatever. It's that balance between authenticity and polishedness.
Yeah.
What are companies doing wrong with their storytelling? Should they be creating a podcast? Should they be creating a YouTube channel? Where do you think companies are getting their storytelling wrong?
Well, versus instead of like not exactly what's going wrong, but I think if you look at what you're putting out there, there's all these touch points you're putting out there whenever you put content out. You're creating more surface area for a potential customer to walk onto. And so it's so important that you remain consistent. It's always the same voice. It's always the same visuals. It's always you, wherever you might meet them, so that you can bring them back home, whether that's your website or whatever your ultimate goal is. But I just want companies to do a better job if they can. And again, I'm not saying people do it wrong, but there's opportunity to do such a good job of making sure you're consistent on all fronts that you put out there. It always sounds like Greg. No matter if I'm finding Greg on YouTube in 26 minutes or Greg in a 15-second TikTok clip or on the billboard driving down the highway. Like I just want it to feel like Greg every time I run into you. And so that will keep you top of mind if I am on the fence. If I do finally think I need someone to do this for me and Greg's the one that does that for me, it might be 2 hours, it might be 2 months. But if all those touch points remain consistent, they're going to build on each other. They're going to make all those efforts more efficient and ultimately bring me home to call Greg and get whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I personally find that companies sell more than just tell a story or just try to connect. They're always trying to get to the bottom line. You need to buy this. This is our product. This is why you need to, instead of saying, here's the full story as to going in depth as to evoking emotion instead of just here's product. This is how much it costs.
Yeah. And again, it's like, it's a relationship. Like if you think about a piece of content as a relationship, a talking point with a person on the other end, because it's what it always is. It's always a person. When you have a number like 300,000 views, you might think of them as views, but it's a person. And every time that person watches a video, it's a conversation. And so you're constantly evolving with each person who's watching. And it's important to remember that. And there are times for that hard sell. And you can't always control when that is. But if you're consistently trying to sell something, that's not too good. Whereas my make a pattern and break it, maybe we're building a stronger relationship and I break that pattern one day by having a video that might push a harder sell. I might get more people than if I had 500 videos with the same attempt to sell with just that one or two or three.
Yeah, go. If you could go a little bit deeper into the make a pattern and break it, because I was originally thinking that that would be more of an emotion, that you're the pattern of this particular emotion, and then you break it by doing some other direction. So could you just give an example of what the pattern and
Yeah,
breaking it would
a
be?
real simple one. So my tool set, again, we'll tell it in my world as a video editor, it's, we could be having a really big, huge, cool drumming music track, and it's building up, it's getting faster, shots are cutting super quick, boom, we stop. And now I'm telling you something new, the all new car, the all new Cut the Pod video production agency, whatever that is. The time you drop it, you don't drop it, you don't build up 3 seconds of fast drums and then hold for the last 2 seconds of those fast drums to introduce something. You do it when those drums stop, boom. Now I'm like, oh, there's something different. That's when you introduce, the pattern's broken. It's time for someone to pay attention to what? Those are your opportunities.
So that really flows into editing. So the storytelling, the sound, the everything, the visual, audio comes together on top of maybe what you're saying, but how you're saying it and breaking it up in a point where it almost breaks the mentality a little bit and makes you focus on what you want them to focus on.
Absolutely, yeah. It's exactly that. It's there's a monotonous might be the wrong word, might sound like a bad word, but there's a cadence that you might have that's in your video, in your short form video. There's a cadence you might have in the release of videos or what you say in videos. And if you're gonna break that pattern, which you should and you will, you gotta have intention, and you gotta know that that break is something someone's gonna pay attention to and use it to your advantage. And that doesn't mean that's the time to sell. That could be the time you offer something that's helpful, or you show your best, your coolest shot. It's just you can create your own opportunities within a video, within a campaign, within your everyday posting to make people pay more attention. And you just got to use it intentionally.
Great. George, if someone wants to get a hold of you for storytelling or even Cut the Pod, so where can they reach you?
So my website for my video podcast production agency, Cut the Pod, is simple, cutthepod.com. Right now, I just released a guide that is meant to help people step up their video setup so that their podcast looks much higher quality. That guide it's just out as of now. So if anyone wants to check that out, download that quick guide and try to look better on camera. And then you can find me on Twitter at Cut the Pod. So I've got Twitter at Cut the Pod, the website at Cut the Pod, and then I've got a great guide which you can find there on Twitter or the website. So Cut the Pod.
I can actually add all that to the description just to make it easy for people to reach out to you if they want to. So George, I really appreciate the time here. It helped me. It's going to help me as a podcaster. I want to incorporate more storytelling. So again, thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you, Greg. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, you got me thinking a lot, so I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, we'll talk soon.
Cheers, Greg. Thank you.